Oh, it's time.
Have you ever heard about the stone spheres of Costa Rica? In the 1930s, while clearing jungle to make room for banana plantations, the United Fruit Company stumbled across ancient stones that were so perfectly spherical that they were never even considered their significance at the time. In fact, bulldozers were used to get them out of the way, and they were even blown up as the workers speculated for gold. Astonishing, right? The sites around Costa Rica have been evaluated by very few over the years, but as of 2010, the site has been evaluated as a UNESCO-protected World Heritage Site of major importance to the history of humanity. Wait till you hear this. The Finca 6 archaeological site is not only of major interest, it is also a complete mystery. Why these stones exist is the subject to much speculation and guesswork at best. But the fact remains, we don't know why they exist, we don't know how old they are, and we don't even know which civilization these things belong to.
On May 28, 2015, at around 4 a.m., a rabbi in southeast Ukraine discovered this unexplained ball of light on the CCTV cam in his synagogue. It is approximately the size of a football or soccer ball and hovered for about 20 seconds before disappearing again. Some theories include extraterrestrials, a ghost or spirit entity, or a rare natural phenomenon known as ball lightning. The ball of light can be easily written off as a natural phenomenon. However, that wouldn't explain the white orbs that display more intelligence. In 2013, a CCTV cam in Russia caught a white orb with obvious signs of intelligence, traveling up and down a secluded road in the woods. In a restaurant's kitchen in 2011, a security cam caught a small white orb. You may think it's just a bug, but watch as it splits into two, then move about in unison. Back in 2012, a video and paranormal enthusiast caught another small white orb of light hovering just below his clothesline in his backyard. The videographer insists that it is not a bug or dust, nor does it move like either, as bugs/dust do not just hover. And finally, one of the most well-known orbs caught on camera is the Orbs of Oliver's Castle, beneath the slopes of the castle's hill fort, just to the north of Devizes in Wiltshire, in 1996. They were recorded as they created crop circles.
So we started to head out to the deck, and I looked over my shoulder and I said, "Whoa, there's a blue orb on the monitor." And he came back in and he looked and he said, "Patty, that monitor's unplugged from the wall." And I looked at the blue orb and I said, "That's not even an orb in the movie." And all of a sudden, the hair went up on my arms. Goosebumps. Chills. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a crop circle. And he could see the hair standing up on my arms and the goosebumps, and I said, they're in the house. And that was the first time I realized that they were with me. It was very, very blatant that it was something from another world that was in the house. And the poor editor looked at me and he goes, "You look weird." And I said, I feel weird. Turn the gear back on.
When anyone sees or feels or hears a communication coming from another dimension, quite often there will be some ball of light that accompanies that. You may notice it, you may not. Very often a blue ball of light actually indicates that truth, that there's a truth being spoken or being worked with or being dealt with or being communicated.
I said, "Show me the Oliver's Castle footage where two balls of light lay a crop circle down in seconds. Show it to me again." He said, "Why?" I said, "I don't know, just do it." So he lit it up and I watched it and I said, "Reverse it." He said, "Why?" I said, "I don't know, just do it." So he reversed it. We watched it. The chills came back and I said, slow it down. He said, how slow? I said, I don't know, 30%. And we both looked at each other like, where did that number come from? Why did I say that? I said, I don't know, just do it.
When I first looked at this picture, I did not know anything about Oliver's Castle. I just saw two balls of plasma communicating with one another. And it was just that simple. They are the, the balls of plasma, or the light at the bottom of those vortices that are creating the crop circle. When Patty reversed it or slowed it down, she actually revealed the communication, which is instantaneous. When you have plasma, plasma communicates almost instantly. It travels immediately everywhere, and that's just one of the features of plasma.
The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
So we've got orbs, we've got spheres, and just in case you thought that was all tonight's Cosmic Fold had in store, think again. A June 6, 2025, Wall Street Journal investigation has just dropped a bombshell. The U.S. military didn't just cover up UFO sightings, they created them. In the 1980s, an Air Force colonel handed over fake flying saucer photos to a bar owner near Area 51. Why? To hide something even more real than aliens, secret stealth aircraft tests, like the then unseen F-117 Nighthawk. Better, they thought, for the public to believe in aliens than to catch a glimpse of top-secret technology. And it wasn't just one incident. The Pentagon's recent dismissal of UFO reports? It may itself be a cover-up, but not of little green men, of the military's own role in fanning the flames of UFO mythology. The truth they buried wasn't alien, it was deception, which brings us to a different kind of strange phenomenon. No, not crop circles or strange balls of granite. Something even weirder. The voice in your head, or maybe the lack of one. It's estimated that between 30% and 50% of people experience an inner monologue regularly, while the remaining 50-70% may have infrequent or no inner dialogue. Some research suggests a smaller percentage, around 5 to 10%, have no inner monologue at all. Now, do you hear a voice in your head when you think? Some do, some don't. And here's the twist. It doesn't make you smarter either way. Some geniuses think in words, others in pictures, motion, or music. Inner dialogue is a style, not a sign of intelligence. Temple Grandin, a groundbreaking scientist, says she thinks entirely in images. For her, words are a second language. Howard Gardner proposed the theory of multiple intelligences. Some minds thrive in language, others in music, movement, emotion, or visual space. Researcher Russell Hurlburt found that many high-functioning people had no verbal inner speech at all. Some just feel the answer, or see it, or simply know it. So next time someone says, "You're not thinking unless you hear a voice," remember this. The loudest mind is not always the most profound one. Inner dialogue is just one way of being brilliant. The real question is, what do you do with your thoughts?
Interesting. Yeah. No, it's true, because I think that especially people who are autistic, they think more in visual kind of stuff. And I think it's just a neurological thing. Some people just have images, and some people are auditory. And I think depending on your sensitivity. Hello, 3D branding in 2D land.
we're hitting all the things we were, so I apologize for the video being so long, but it was like we left all of these things hanging last time.
Yeah, right.
So that's, we've got like this potpourri of different topics tonight.
Well, the Buddhists would really think that it's probably better and more evolved not to have a voice in your head, to have no voice at all. That's the goal of meditation.
That's what I was trained. It's like to go in and hold it, the silence. And so I was thinking about that when I was younger. I used to get in arguments with my dad because he thought in pictures and I thought in words. But as I got older, it switched more into, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like pictures, but energy reads. Like I'm partially deaf. And if I'm having a lot of trouble hearing, I can actually watch like shapes come out of people's mouths, and I don't know what that is. And it's like different animals have like little songs that go with them. So as I get older, it's turning more like a visual auditory.
It's probably
synesthesia.
Yeah, synesthesia. And you're probably your brain is compensating for your lack of hearing,
making other connections.
Yeah, same. I do too. I think in both words and images. Yeah.
I don't think it's anything weird that you wouldn't have monologue or a dialogue or pictures. But the thing that disturbed me was the percentage of people who had nothing.
Well, no, that's not what that was about, though. That was only an inner dialogue. So I looked into the research. That's what the study was about. It's about people who talk inside their head.
Right, but he even just said just now that there's 5 to 15% or something of people who have
nothing. Well, maybe they're very zen. I don't know. I doubt dogs have an inner dialogue, or monkeys, although people say the monkey brain. Maybe they're just more really planted in the here and now. They don't, that's it. I don't know. Maybe that.
Or the thing of self-reflection, and then how we end it. What do you do with your thoughts? And I was thinking in terms of the plasma, like 3D braining was. That's just I wasn't familiar with these orbs creating.
Oh, you didn't know about that? Oh wow!
And I didn't know that they thought like how they communicate. I didn't know that. So, all right. So if thoughts are things, as I've been taught anyway that you need to be careful with your thoughts. Does that create like a plasma thing? And then, we get to this whole thing where I think we're constantly being lied to. With this Wall Street Journal article now saying, oh, well, all the UFO stuff, it was just fake so that we could do, there's probably a grain of
also a lie, though.
But I'm just saying, blue orbs, come on in and just shine the light on all of this. If blue orbs do truth, I don't know. I don't know anything about colors. I thought, well, Denise and Helen probably know that. I don't know.
Well, you know what? I just watched some of this documentary called The Program, and I didn't finish it because it was late. But that's all about sort of the government and the alien stuff. And, there were whistleblowers for CIA, really high up CIA agents and people who worked, and they have said that this is real. So I think what's happening is, and there's been a war in the Pentagon for a long time between people who believe that there should be truth told, and another part of people who just go, no, we don't want to tell people this. And there are people in the Pentagon, that Lou Elizondo book, he talks about, there are people in the Pentagon, there's a specific word for them, but they actually believe that UFOs are demons.
They're
and
Christian,
aliens are demons. And they don't want people to know about it because of their religious persuasion, which he thought was completely insane, because it is. But so you have all these different factions warring, and since there is no oversight of those agencies, they're in war with each other about this truth coming out. So that's probably a planted story too. I mean, that's the problem with UFOs. A lot of it is planted stuff. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if what you're hearing through somebody who says they're reporting on it, if it's real or somebody's being played. That's the whole thing. Do you have an orb in your house? What the fuck was that? No, that's your fan. Okay.
And I apologize for it's garbage day today, and I'm hauling it all out, and it's like 99 degrees, and the wind's blowing, and my hair's
God.
trash,
Oh my
and
God.
wet pouring out. So it's like, forget
But
it.
what happened to your air conditioning? Did it go out? Do you have air conditioning or no?
No, I don't need it right now. It'll cool down. It's just right before the show. It gets really hot, and I was outside hauling garbage.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's not bad in here.
That's good. Yeah.
This place I have was built probably 1901, I think.
Oh, wow.
This used to be Mexico back in the day.
Right.
And how the Mexicans built things, the walls, this is an old building. And so half of it, I'm going to have it restored. And that will be a conference area, and people can come in and make videos and do different things. That's what I got. Back in the day with my degree, that's what it was for, not doing what I do. But in any event, the walls are probably this thick, probably 2 feet of stone that was quarried just around here. Wow. And so I did a test with my friend. It's like a big root cellar. I don't know if you're familiar with root cellars.
Yeah, sure.
I have one.
Yeah, and that's what it's like, because I put plants in there. There's not even power on the other side in this building. And I put plants, everything just survived, and it was consistently 68 to 69 degrees, whether it was 2 below zero or 90 degrees. It just doesn't, it stays because of that insulation. So I don't even need air conditioning because of these stone walls are just so thick. But when you're outside hauling garbage and sweating, it's nice.
Yeah, you need that. Yeah, you need a fan. Yeah, that's great. That's really good, because if the grid goes down, you're still okay if you're in Arizona. And you have those
what I want to do is put solar on the top and then have the whole thing solar.
That'd be good.
Yeah, and so a lot of these buildings through here, it was like in the 70s, they all started to just kind of fall apart, and people left. But now there's people coming back in and restoring everything again. And that's so good. Like they found this cool bank vault in there, and then like this, I don't know, I just have this feeling, and everybody that's walked into it on the other wall of this building here, everyone who's walked in said, there's something hidden under the floor in here.
Wow.
But when I pick that floor up, it's going to be interesting, because that was my feeling. And then all these other people started saying that. So I looked it up, but it used to be the assayer's office and the lawyer's building back in the gold hunting days. So there could
be gold underneath there. That'd be kind of wild.
And this whole 3D says, oh, film it. And I am going to film as I restore and do everything in here, because these old buildings, just the beams, it's like the ceiling goes way up high, and it's got these incredible beams. And then I started tearing out one part, and it's got like the old lead glass, I mean, it's bricked over, but I want to open that up to let the light come in. I mean, it's very cool. It's it's a bit of an adventure. I'm just paying as I go, to do it. So,
right. Wow.
I got married at the mission in Santa Barbara, and it was built, by the Spanish with the slave labor of the native people, But the walls of that building are enormous. There's, like you go to a window, and you could sit, I don't know, half a dozen people. The depth from the inside to the outside of the window, because the walls are so thick. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew how to build stuff, and it withstood wind. And there were like floods that came through this area, and there were just a couple buildings and this one withstood it. So,
wow.
Well, the Santa Barbara mission didn't fare very well during the earthquake they had in 1925, I think.
Yeah, well,
they
if
lost
it's
a
quick,
big
that'll be a
portion of their
problem.
bell tower, and
Yeah, that's the problem with. I mean, it's great, but if you're in a seismic area, that's the problem.
It has no give. Yeah.
No, yeah.
You
That's
know,
true.
though, all of Arizona is, they say, I mean, it even shows up here that it is a seismic area. So if these things start going off, the big ones, I can see some of that starting to happen. And then, you know, the other thing is that there's so many like irrigation reservoirs, you know, all throughout the West. A lot of those aren't like real lakes, they're man-made.
Oh, yeah.
And once one of those dams go down, I mean, even like where I am here in the high desert, you would never think it would flood. Well, why it did before was the dam broke on a reservoir that's probably like 13 miles from here. And man, when that water comes down, it's crazy. So if all of these things start, I don't know.
Listen, it'll be quick.
Well, you know what? Well, if all this stuff starts happening, I mean, there's kind of like, there's nowhere safe really. So what can you do? You know, you just have to, I mean, I think that's where we're at now with just everything is kind of like, I mean.
Well, we've deluded ourselves into thinking that life is not terminal. You know, it just is. Right. Cascading earth trauma.
Now, I want you guys' opinion on when she was talking about these blue orbs. What have you seen?
How big are they? It depends on the size. Yeah.
She was talking about would be what, like the size of a football or something?
Yeah, they said a football or a soccer ball. Yeah.
Who said that? What context?
Patty Greer, the one that filmed that.
Oh, she said they were blue?
Yeah.
Those orbs? Oh, she just saw one blue orb.
Well, that was in her computer. Like came through her computer monitor, and the monitor was unplugged, and then that's where she started getting information. And then that other lady on there was saying that something about the orbs, and especially if they're blue, seem to convey some kind of truth. I had never heard that before. I didn't, you know, I have experienced like this blue light, but it's been more like a flash, not as an orb.
Blue light. I've had the blue light. But the blue light always associated with the abduction stuff for me. I always saw the blue light and then I'd have an experience. But, you know, I've seen blue orbs, but they're not big ones. And they're little like flashes of blue light. They come in right before a rain. I think they're elementals, actually.
Yeah.
But a blue orb, it sounds like a plasma being that came to her, you know, that's what it sounds like.
I've seen blue lights. This is years ago. This woman named Thunder Woman. She was, I think she was Sue. She was going around and had like these, you know, things that you could go to and so I went. I never, you know, I was young. I'd never heard of sweat lodges or any of that kind of thing before. But I thought, oh, this sounds kind of interesting. And so you know how it is. All these people think they're very important, so they have to go first, right? So I'm just like kick back, and it's like, oh, whatever. I'll just do it whenever, you know. Just watch the people enjoy hanging out here. And this was near Dallas. I don't know if it was Texas or it was some lake around there. And so anyway, these people were so mad because they kept getting the apprentices. They didn't have Thunder Woman. Well, then she called the last of us. There were only like maybe 7, 10 of us. And so we go in there and we got to have Thunder Woman because
you waited patiently. Right.
Yeah, it was just kind of like everyone do their thing. So I had to sit on her left side. She told me I had to sit there. And it's like, okay. And so it gets hotter and hotter and she's banging. And she told me start the chant. Well, I spoke in perfect Sioux. I have never spoken in Sioux in my life. I could not speak it right now.
Why would you?
How would you know it? Yeah.
I get chills just even reflecting on that experience because it was like, as we were going, there were like these blue like lights like everywhere inside of the sweat lodge, and they were just like spinning, and pretty soon everybody knew the language, and it was like we turned Sioux in there. It was.
So did you speak English, but it came out Sioux. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I just spoke Sioux. I thought in Sioux. I spoke it. I knew
thought in Sioux.
I knew all of it.
Wow.
I knew what I was supposed to do. And it's like, I am not somebody who channels or any, I'll get a flash here and there of an insight, but I'm not consistent on it at all. And so to have that experience, it was just crazy. And this blue light that was like going around. And then when it was over, this was the first and only time I've ever experienced being at one with the universe, to understand what that means. Because going out of there, it was like the stars, you could just hug them. They were so close, and they were like part of you, and the tree. I've never experienced anything like that. It was so profound. And it was just like, whatever this was like the whole purpose of existence almost to me. It was so profound. And I mean, I couldn't even drive for a while because I was so at one with everything that it was just, I don't even know how to explain that. So that was my experience with the blue orbs when they were called in that kind of way. But other times I've seen like the flashes of this blue light. Like you, it seems more like the UFO kind of stuff. That
it's UFO related for me. The blue light, I've seen blue orbs in people's aura field sometimes. And what I have taken that to be sort of like a feminine, I always say that the blue is like feminine divine wisdom and the white is masculine divine wisdom. So I don't know if maybe the blue orbs, the blue plasma orbs are more feminine of energy. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it's interesting. Blue is also the highest color spectrum on the, when it's, we say ultraviolet light, but it's actually blue. You would see it as blue.
And plasma is about charged particles. So there's
So, and white would be all of the spectrum, but blue would just be the highest vibration.
Picked out, Deborah, I have to say something. You're so self-deprecating and you minimize your abilities. But every single week you talk about some crazy thing you've gone through. I just can't even believe it. Every week it's something new.
I know.
You know the saying, where three or more are gathered? There is a power in that. And I think that there are things that are coming out, just whether we know it or not, energy-wise or what have you. And there's a reason we're all together.
That's in the Bible,
Yeah, that is.
The Last Supper, I think.
In there. I thought it was two or more. It's three? I thought it was two
or more. For me, it's three.
However many.
Yeah. Three is a magic number, though. It is. It's a manifestation
it's
number.
It's like the Trinity. It's the,
And it actually comes from the maiden mother crone, the goddess culture that was reappropriated in the Roman
by St. Patrick,
by the Romans, when they kind of came up with how do you make, if it's a monotheistic religion, how do you square Jesus then? And he has to be a god. So okay, he's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. There you go.
Sometimes he's a shamrock.
No women, no, can't have a woman. It's patriarchal. Yeah.
I have to tell you an orb story. This is weird, okay? So I didn't know from orbs. I didn't really, I didn't pay attention. I didn't know. I started doing my channel. And a little bit into it, I started getting a little bit more confidence about doing cards, talking about them and stuff. And I used to watch the beginnings because I have technical problems. And I was looking to make sure the sound worked and stuff. And I started to notice that in a lot of my videos, there was orb activity. And at first I thought, oh, come on, but sometimes it was not big, not blue, not big, little
tiny orb. Yeah, that's
shoot out of my mouth or shoot off the top of my head or little golden glittery stuff. And the more intense the subject matter, the more that would happen.
Yeah.
Wow. The day that I talked about Eric Prince, it was like somebody was setting off fireworks in the room.
Wow.
That's how evil that guy is. I'm not kidding you. I couldn't believe it. And it got to the point where I could actually see him go by while I was talking, like in the room.
Wow.
However, the more confident I got, the fewer I saw. I think they were like a validation.
Yeah, that's what they are. And they probably pushed you to do the stuff that you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what happens. It's an interesting phenomenon, like I've been thinking about. It's like once there's a lot of activity getting you into something, and then it kind of settles down. You know what I mean? And then once you're in it,
from there,
it's usually, and then if there's a shift coming, there's usually, for me, that's how it works. Like there's a lot of activity again, but yeah, it kind of goes in waves. You know what I mean?
You know, your meditation, and for people kind of new to the show, both Helen and Denise have YouTube channels, and Denise has some meditations out there right now. That one with the gold, is the gold, really good. I've been using that one. It's very
helpful. Yeah,
because I don't know, it was just very grounding. And last week I found myself getting into a real nasty, like fighty kind of mode.
That's the Uranus-Mars square.
Oh, were you at my house?
Everybody throws it away. Yeah.
But so I was doing, I did that gold, and it was very centering for me.
Soothing.
Sort of like,
yeah.
It's just sort of like, okay, that's the drama. Just be you. I don't know. It was just a really good. So people, if you're out there and with all of these things going on, I highly recommend you do those meditations that you're putting out, because they're helpful, and it kind of takes it in a different realm than the typical kind of stuff that people do. It's good.
Yeah, it's small, it's short, it's sweet, it's easy. It doesn't take a long time, and you don't have to like meditate for 20 years. You can just do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's what I liked about it, because it was like, because I do my meditation thing at 4 a.m, but it was like, even that, I was still like in this place. It was, I don't know, which
I think it's called
sleep that way.
No, I think it's the Uranus-Mars square. That's the agitated. It's really easy to get in a fight right now. It's really kind of like everything's making you feel anxious and kind of angry.
And that was where I was hearing like words, like my thoughts. It kind of moved it into something, which turns, and typically my thinking is more, like I said, it's the pictures, the sound, just this feeling of energy. And but if I'm preparing for a meeting or preparing to do like a business sort of thing, then it goes into words. It's more like you said, left brain, right.
Yeah,
brain.
it's a left and right thing, I think.
But that agitation, that was something I noticed. It's like, you know what, that goes into the word thing.
Right, right.
For my thinking process, it's not the more conceptual sort of way of looking at the world.
What do you mean when you do regular meditation? You're talking about? Are you? Because really, regular meditation is about
no, just regular life for me. It's I don't like think in words and all of that. But I noticed with this agitation, my thoughts were like words. And hearing things that people had said maybe years ago, it's like, who cares? I'm not mad at them anymore over that. But it was like coming back in my head.
That's interesting.
I heard you setting up that sound equipment earlier.
Yeah, that's right. But
she has an interesting vocabulary. Still not as diverse as mine. I learned at my grandmother's knee.
Yeah. Well, you had some pretty intense Christian kind of upbringing though too. You probably don't swear as much as some people. I would bet.
She's pretty good at it.
She is? Okay.
Where I learned it, I was so good. Yeah, with the Christian thing, I never swore, and I don't swear very often.
I bet you don't. Yeah.
But where I learned it was working for law firms. They're the worst.
Yeah.
I work with now, they're all LDS, and they're just, so it's
right. Like, they don't swear. Yeah.
But that's how I learned it. It was like,
you have to use it a bit or you'll lose it. You need to keep it practiced or you get rusty. So I recommend
that's why we have a phone line here, so I can swear at it. So the spheres, what do you guys think that is? The things in Costa Rica?
I think that's plasma beings. Oh, the spheres. The spheres. Oh, the granite spheres. God, that is really a weird one. I mean,
part of some monolithic structure that had to do with something metaphysical. I mean,
It's
there's a
probably
specific
something-
answer.
Yeah, they didn't, because they were aligned, and then they moved a
Right.
lot of these. So
Right,
when
lined
the
up
meeting
with
was
the
there,
stars. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a
and
weird one. Yeah, that's a weird
and they're
one.
saying they're like 16 tons, 14 to 16 tons. These big round balls, and
Yeah.
the nearest quarry is like 30 miles away. So
That's
they
how
would
a
have.
lot of those things are, like Stonehenge or whatever. They're all like, or like some of these really, really meticulous, like kind of dovetailed, perfectly cut archaeological things. Were like, how do they do that? I mean,
Like Göbekli Tepe, like what the heck?
right? Yeah, and the rock isn't from anywhere near there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably remnants of either an ancient civilization that we forgot, or aliens. I mean, I think that's probably
or both. More likely,
or
both.
an ancient alien civilization. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you notice? I don't think I was imagining this. On one of those round stones, you could see sutures, like in your skull. You could see sutures that were going off. You saw them, right? Okay.
Yes.
I'm not imagining things. Okay. And I thought, boy, that's interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that happened when people were like trying to move them.
It could have been a track.
I don't think so.
Weird.
They look like, I'm not implying anything. Maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I am. They look like biological sutures like you see in bone.
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe they were grown. I mean, maybe there's some weird technology where you could grow a rock. I don't know, in a shape. I never even thought about that until you said
rock
that.
is basically crystal, and crystal is mathematical structures.
Right. So maybe some technology that we don't know. That's why they're so perfectly cut. Maybe they weren't cut. Maybe the elements were put in those places and formed with some technology and formed into a perfect sphere, like how we would, pour bronze into a statue or something. But they just knew how to do it in some other way that we lost. I don't know. It's possible.
Even like down by the Phoenix area, some of the native ruins, they have these big like sports arena kind of things that they had back in the day. Right. And they would, to me, that would hurt, but it was almost like a form of soccer where they used like round rocks, to play the game.
So they also used heads.
Yeah, they were using heads. That's true too. The Mayans did that, or not the Mayans. The Aztecs did that. Yeah.
Not the ones around Phoenix. They used rocks, but that's where my mind went. Was like, okay, what if these were giants and these are like part of a game?
Yeah, right. Could be. I mean, it's another. Anything is possible.
There were giants, but you're right on. There were giants.
I mean, there were giants. Yeah. I got this magazine at the grocery store on the way out, like last week or whatever. Because of this, we're talking about all this stuff, and I was like, okay, and this is all the sciencey stuff. It's popular mechanics, just different exoplanets and stuff like that. But that made me start thinking about the fact that a couple different things. Obviously, the Mars thing, that there's a lot of archaeological sort of humanoid-looking things on that planet. And the second thing I was thinking about, that I read a long time ago, and I was a dork, and I had an Omni subscription, Omni magazine. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, me too.
So did my husband.
And then Omni, you bet.
I was totally into Omni magazine.
So dorky that I would even catalog them.
Oh yeah, I love them so much. That was a great magazine. I wish it was still around, because it was science fiction and science. I loved it so much. Anyway, so I was reading an article in Omni back in probably the 80s or something, because that's when I would have been reading it, early 80s probably. And there was a theory that the asteroid belt, so the asteroid belt in our solar system is between Jupiter, I think, and Venus or Saturn. No, wait, let's see. Venus is the fourth one, and then there's the asteroid belt. And then that's the sort of separation between the inner planets, the sort of personal planets and the outer planets. It might be Saturn, actually. I can't remember if Saturn comes first before Jupiter. I think so. Does it? I can't remember. Anyway, whatever.
Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn.
Saturn, yeah. Mars, Saturn, yeah. Venus is closer to the sun. I always confuse that because it's a hot planet, Mars, and I always think, it should be closer to the sun. And I get it confused with Mercury. So Mercury, Venus, the Earth, Mars, Saturn, no, asteroid belt, Saturn, Jupiter. Right. So I don't know why I can't. I should know that. I know astrology, but and I know the cycles. So the further out you go, the longer the cycle. But anyway, they were theorizing that at one point there could have been a civilization on that planet that blew itself up.
Yeah.
A long, long time ago.
They talk about Nibiru, something like that.
Now that's a different planet.
No, but they talk about in relation.
Oh, okay. They okay. I don't know. I thought Nibiru was the planet X that might be out there. Actually, they just found a planet that might be Nibiru. They
speculate that the juxtaposition over time created some sort of,
Well, there's a couple of theories. One is that while this part of the universe was forming in the solar system, things bounced together and destroyed this other planet. But it really doesn't make sense, I don't think, because the way that everything sort of, why would the asteroids only be in that one particular section? I mean, seems like they'd be scattered everywhere if it bounced around and everything was bouncing around and hitting it, The other thing is, what I'm saying is the idea of Nibiru, isn't that like Planet X? It's supposed to be found at a certain point. They just found a planet that's bigger than, I think, Jupiter or something like that in the Kuiper Belt.
Just last week they were talking about last week. Yeah.
And my first thought was, is this Nibiru or whatever? Nibiru? I can't remember, because it was like
Nibiru. What are they going to call it?
Weird. I don't know. The Japanese found it. So they'll probably name it something Japanese.
Nibiru sounds Japanese.
It does.
That's weird. Oh my God.
But I mean, it was weird because this is a massive planet. This is not like Pluto or something like that. This is bigger than Jupiter. I mean, it's massive size. And that the fact that it's been hiding in the Kuiper belts makes you wonder,
what else is there?
Also, like, is it possible? I mean, because so I was reading this magazine, and they were talking about how there's a couple of things, and this is something I used to think about as a kid. You would watch Carl Sagan on Nova or something like that. You'd always be like, well, you have to have hydrogen and oxygen for life. I'm like, no, you don't. Why are you and not everything is going to be carbon-based life. I mean, that's an assumption. We don't know that. That's just our bias, right? But what they've figured out from some of these exoplanets is they started thinking like that. Like, well, it doesn't have to necessarily be. I mean, they've been studying weird little creatures that develop in acid areas and things like that, impossible places. So they're starting to think, well, maybe there's other types of life. And one of the big exoplanets that they found that's not as big as Jupiter, but about 30% bigger than Earth. It actually has a lot of what they think are the markings, and maybe even a better template, they were saying, for life than our planet.
Yes.
Thicker, but it actually has, it's orbiting a white dwarf. Okay. And it has so you think that a white dwarf does not put out a lot of light. I mean, that would be like being in the Kuiper belts, right? Yep. So what if this fucking giant thing has some kind of intelligent life on it that is sort of that has some kind of really thick atmosphere? That's what this planet has. That maybe is so thick and capable of sort of mitigating and kind of exaggerating the effects of the light. I mean, you sort of think like, we really don't know shit. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think they'd let us move?
What? What did you say?
Let us move to their neighborhood.
I mean, it makes me wonder because
they have any empty space.
You kind of start thinking like, if there isn't, there was a story about this astronomer too. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but where he wrote a book called The Rings of Saturn. Did you ever hear about this?
Oh yeah, who was that? I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he published this book because he took pictures of what he thought was a giant mining operation of the rings of Saturn.
Yeah,
he saw this massive ship, and I saw pictures of it in a MUFON meeting one time, and I was like, "Holy shit!" But that book is almost impossible to find. Like, it was buried, and he self-published it, and the copies are they're gone. Somebody bought them all up, and took care of that,
Yep.
and he's dead now. So, but I did see them, and it was this crazy long looking kind of thing that was across the entire band that was clearly like they were like a raking thing, you know. So if we have aliens and there's people who have, you know, think that Jupiter, the moon of Jupiter Io is probably a base, the moon, our moon is a base. I don't know. I mean, what, maybe that giant planet is where they're all hanging out. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a mothership. I don't know.
On Mars, do you think that there was life? I have even heard people say that Atlantis was on Mars. You know, some of these
It could have been. It could have been. Yeah.
As a real little kid, we had to write like stories, and I had, as a kid, I don't know where I got that idea, was that there was a lot, but they were driven under the ground, and they had evolved to the point where they were living by photosynthesis, like plants. And in this fiction story, it's like I was in second grade or something, and I was pretty much like 2020, around there. We're going to have machines roving around, and they squish the area where the light comes down to survive. And I was thinking about that the other day, and I thought, I wonder, because they are finding some kind of weird things on Mars.
You know what? I know one of the things that's really all the things that I find out about Mars, and I think about, I had a past life regression back in like 1980, maybe 84 or something. I was in college, and I don't know why, but it was this whole lifetime where I was in a hive mind, not as like this type of body, but like I was some kind of energy being or something like that. And it looked like Mars, and it was under the ground. It was going through all these tunnels in Mars. And I thought, what the fuck? This is so weird.
That sounds so unappealing, you know?
It was so weird. And so I was like, so when all the information started coming out about Mars, I thought, was that on Mars that I had that lifetime? Or was that some other planet? I don't know, but it made me think, yeah.
What is that theory? It starts with the Fermi. What is that theory? It starts with an F. Where a civilization reaches a certain technological capability, and then they can't handle it, basically self-destruct.
Yeah.
And so whatever that theory, I could see that, like if it was Mars or anywhere else, and the people would go underground. But even look at Earth, where the Hopi and everybody talk about coming from people, other world and coming up.
Yes,
and
that's right.
So could very well be, that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if there's evidence, they think. I mean, the other thing I've heard is there's a lot of a signature of what seems like atomic bomb blasts on Mars, like that there's signatures that would read like that if you thought if there were human activity around there, and they don't really understand why or how it got there, but it looks like nuclear weapons kind of signatures, like old, 5,000, 10,000 year half-life of some kind of nuclear event. So it makes you think, I mean, did they all blow themselves up with nuclear weapons and then head over to Earth and terraform it? I don't know. Maybe
there's this whole theory, and I know I've heard this, I've read this in one of Dolores Cannon's books, but before you shoot me down there,
I'm not going to.
I've also heard it from other experiencers who've been told this. So this is the story, that there was an advanced civilization on Earth, and that they had technology that we can't even really explain, but it had to do with crystals, and they had this gigantic crystal that was generating energy, and they could do things with it, create things, whatever, and they got too big for their britches. What?
Right. My next girlfriend is going to be a blue Arcturian waifu. That's pretty funny. Okay.
Anyway, that they ended up getting too big for their britches, and they blew everything up because they didn't follow the advice of superior beings who were helping them or something. I don't know.
Huh. Well, I mean, anything's possible. I mean,
you sat there. I don't know why you made me think of it with that story, because it's not totally related. But back in the day, I knew an Apache medicine woman. We hung out And one of her, I mean, she only went up to like here on me. She was just a ball of energy, just so much fun. And she was really good at past life readings. And so she told me a couple of them, and she said that I lived in Atlantis and was like some kind of pilot. And she was describing all this stuff and knew when things were about to hit the fan that I was one of these people that flew this pilot, and we flew this like aircraft thing, and it crashed in South America. And she said, so your like biological thing, whatever you are now, sort of comes from that South American sort of the people that populated it there. And so you think about that too, and they say the same thing kind of like with Egypt, that some of these people that were fleeing, you know, if Atlantis was real, I don't even know what I think about Atlantis.
I don't either. I have I mean, I don't know either. That's it, like Lemuria, Atlantis. I mean, I'm open to that, but I'm also wonder if it's maybe those things may not have been here. You know what I'm saying? Lemuria, Atlantis may not have been on Earth. They may actually be sort of root civilizations that came to Earth. You know, a part of me thinks that they may have existed somewhere else, and some of those people who were on those other civilizations came here and seeded this planet. I don't know why, but that's my intuition about it.
Every time they find new archaeology,
right,
they push back the whole
timeline. That's
chronology.
Right. Yes,
right.
I do.
I've been reading all these Paul Wallace books, and I'm really bad at remembering the factual details, but I get the sense of what he's talking about. I remember that. And they just keep saying, well, there's been so many advanced civilizations that have come and gone. Noah's flood, you know, that story, which is global. It's ubiquitous.
It is. That definitely
across cultures.
Yeah.
That was just the most recent in a long series of existential events. So the story of Atlantis, the story of Lemuria, there of course there was something somewher a long time ago.
Right. I mean, look at Egypt. Look at Egypt. Look at all these ruins we have. I mean, who knows? I think, like you said, humanity goes back a long time, and I think we have a lot of it wrong. Personally, I think what I personally think, my feeling is that the universe is populated by other intelligent beings going to places, investigating and terraforming those places. And that's probably what happened here. Casey said that Atlantis would surface in like 1968 in Caribbean, and they found the Bimini Road, but who knows? He also said if you eat what a ridiculous answer. You are hilarious. Well, did they find Atlantis?
Only an almond. One almond to do. That's the problem.
There was some kind of road or something found, I think.
There was something found. Yeah.
They found, you know, Graham Hancock and his wife, well, one of his wives, they went all over the world. They learned scuba diving. They learned underwater photography, and they photographed unbelievable amounts of monolithic stuff along all the coasts, along all the islands, everywhere you go, every continent you go to, you go a little bit into the water with camera, and it's just unbelievable. And it's not naturally occurring shapes. These things are far too regular and geometric and repetitive, right? Straight roads that go on forever underwater. I mean, come on.
Right. So the Atlantis thing could also be a metaphor for many lost civilizations. You know what I mean? Like you said.
That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I keep thinking is if there was a real Atlantis that people saw fall, it had to be, the Greeks had to be close enough to it for them to see it, because it's not like the ancient world. They had airplanes and email and stuff. So, I think if there was a real Atlantis, it might have been some island, and it maybe was a metaphor.
But one of the theories is that there was an Atlantis, but it was like an empirical sort of thing, an empire. It extended in a lot of different places, a loose coalition, So yes, they were part of Atlantis, but they weren't the city of it. So they might have seen the civilization fall without being at the exact city that started it all.
Right. I mean, when I did a long time ago when I was working as a psychic, and a friend of mine read some channeling book that was another psychic, and she got all into it, like, oh, let's try that and everything. I'm like, okay. So we tried it, and I was like, I don't know about this. And it turned out I started being really good at it. And so I was channeling all this entity, she, said all these other psychics would come and ask me questions. And one of them was Under the Caribbean. So there you go. There's lots of Casey lore. Huh, my grand aunt. Well, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's wild. That's pretty cool.
I wonder if your aunt, your great aunt, is she still around? Because
really not.
Stefan Schwartz. I'm pointing because he lives in that general direction, very far away. Stefan Schwartz went to Casey's place. He had this wild story. Lived in the middle of nowhere in Virginia on 100 acres of an ancient, basically a family plantation, I think. 10-mile dirt road from the main road, 10 miles on a dirt road to get to the house. And this couple comes strolling down all dressed up. She passed away 10 years ago. Yeah. Oh, I thought she was probably gone. Yeah. Yeah, that's too bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, they invited him to what turned out to be Casey's Institute, whatever it's called. And he'd never heard of him. Never, he had been sitting at home sulking because his work with the National Geographic, he made documentaries with the National Geographic, and they'd just gotten one done about their discoveries with remote viewing in Alexandria in the harbor, So some glitch was keeping things from progressing, and he was angry and he was wasting time and sitting there. And the girl was cute who came to the house. So I said, oh, okay, maybe I'll go. So a couple of days later, he goes to the address in Virginia Beach, and what is this place? Never heard of Edgar Casey. They gave him a tour. They walked into a room, and the library must have been, it was full of green binders, floor to ceiling, of all of his sessions, because they had a woman stenographer who kept all the
right.
He wrote. So he asked, what is this? These are his sessions. Help yourself. Look at any that you want to. So he walked over at random. They weren't labeled. Walked over at random, pulled one off the shelf, opened it at random to the center of the papers, and it was all about Alexandria, the library in Alexandria.
Wow.
And he stayed the next 5 years.
And he what?
Stayed there the next 5 years.
I bet that's really, that's a sign there ever was one. Yeah. So anyway, I started channeling these group of people are asking me all kinds of questions, some of them personal, some of them not. And a lot of people wanted to know about Atlantis. I think it was my friend who actually brought it up. I don't, to be honest, I was in my early 20s. I really didn't know anything about Atlantis. I've never heard of Atlantis. I didn't really know anything about the lore. I didn't have any interest in it either. I thought it was kind of stupid. I mean, no offense to anybody, but I thought it was stupid. At the time, I was like, this is stupid. I don't fucking care about this. So she asked me these questions while I was under as this channeling this entity. And the way it came out would be always, it would spell out like in letters. So I didn't always know what was being said. Sometimes I get pieces of the word. So she was taking the notes and it was spelling out the words. So it spelled out this, like, I don't even know how many. So it was like 4 or 5 syllables, this old Greek word, and gave the location of where Atlantis was and who this person was, who was somehow in command of Atlantis or something like that when it fell. And it was this really, really long Greek kind of sounding word. That I spelled out that I don't even know how to pronounce it. I didn't know what it was. And where the Atlantis really was and what sea it was in. I honestly don't remember anything about it. She had all the information. She went digging through all of these old books at, I don't know, Dalton's and all these different old bookstores in Los Angeles. And she found an old book that had sort of documented all of the things that you could find about Atlantis. I don't even know what you could find then, but she found the name of that guy that I had
really that you
spelled out. That I didn't spell it out. I didn't have anything to do with it. Whatever was talking through me, it was probably like 15 letters long. And she found it in this book and found the place that was talked about, the area it was talking about. Now, I don't know if it was the real Atlantis or whatever, but it was supposed to be Atlantis. And it was local to the Greeks. I mean, it was kind of in that area from what I remember. And that kind of makes sense because if the Greeks reported it, they probably would have been nearby, right? I mean, so I don't know.
Is there a way to get that information? I mean, that would be really
I don't know. My friend had it. We used to tape record them and she would write all this stuff out. And I think a long time ago, I tried to take the notes and like read, but I had a typewriter. I didn't have a computer back then. I don't know I've moved like a bunch of times. I was in my early 20s. I have no idea what happened to all that stuff. She might have some of it. I don't know, but we were both kind of young and kind of cuckoo and doing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I doubt she has it either. But when she told me that and she opened the book, because she bought the book and showed it to me, like the name and the transcript, I was like, I can't even fucking believe that. That is just insane.
That's crazy for something that long.
So specific.
There's no way you would.
I don't know anything, and I had literally no interest in it at all.
So what they would say if they believed in the scientific interpretation of remote viewing is that you tuned in to the information in the field. Everything thought, said, done, written.
That's what. That's how I always felt like that's my kind. That's your spiders. Good luck. I know, really. I cannot even remember.
It's all right there. Right there.
I was impressed by how weird it was, but I didn't care about Atlantis. So I really was like, okay, that's really weird. But I
would rather find out who the Zodiac killer was.
There's so many things that I would have rather found out about, than that. But whatever. That was the thing that was to me the most remarkable about it, because when you're channeling stuff like that, there's a couple other times where it's just like really weird and specific when people ask questions about places I've never been. And I did say it, the channeling thing, and they'd be like, yeah, that's the name of the street. I'm like, what the fuck? That's weird, man. Yeah. But for the most part, it would be like questions like, what's the purpose of life? You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? And he was like, is this, it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe this is my own subconscious, I could be making this shit up. I don't know what's really happening here. But when it was those things that I could not know, that's what
factual things you're tuning into. You just
I was like, that's not me, because I do not know that. That's the only time I was like something to
very interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
The purpose of life, by the way, is to try to figure it out for yourself without cheating.
I like that. That's good.
Why do biological entities, whether they're from Atlantis or Mars or whatever they are, why do we have this desire, whatever it is, self-destruct and to kill? I don't
know. Speak for yourself.
I think that's a monkey thing. That's a human thing. I don't think it is every species that's like that. I really don't. I think that's a biological. I personally have a theory about that.
Like animals that are beneath us, they don't do that.
They don't do that. No, that's why what I'm saying. What I think it is, what I think it is? I think we're hybrids, right? I think we're hybrids. And I think there's part of us that's at war with the other part of us. And that's why we're self-destructive. Because we're something of the earth and we're something else. And we can't rectify those.
Can't settle.
Yeah. And we're we don't really belong here. And, and there's, I think we're kind of glommed together like a Frankenstein kind of monkey. Yeah. So our brains are not quite right. That's my theory.
You don't have to go too far to figure that out. Just, take the train to DC.
Yes.
Until I got older and started reading different, I really thought there was something wrong with me, because it was like the human experience was so uncomfortable.
Yes, same.
And
because you're normal.
Because you're an alien.
Just this petty like gossip, and I mean, that's probably my pet peeve is gossip. I can't stand it where people are just like this backstabbing.
But you know, in that book, Sapiens, that is a uniquely human thing that is very much how people survive was gossip. And that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody else felt the same way because it was just like, I just don't get it. It was like, even stupid stuff like the prom, I was not into. I just thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah, same. I didn't like gossip either, or the prom. I know. I didn't like it either. But I think
me as class president because I ran on the anti-prom campaign.
But you're probably spectrum-y too. I know I am. I mean, my daughter's spectrum-y, and I didn't get diagnosed. My brother's extremely spectrum. I mean, he's on the spectrum. I think I'm spectrum-y. My dad was an engineer, and
very clever.
So, but I think that like people who are gossip is like a human thing. Like according to the book Sapiens, people use gossip basically to be able to weed out bad actors in the group, and that's what it was for.
Oh.
So if, for example, you're hunting and gathering with people and somebody is not doing their part, or they're poisoning people, or they're doing things behind other people's backs, that's what gossip was all about. And it was a huge survival thing for early people. But
gossip is a bonding thing too.
And it's a bonding thing.
Wait till you hear what I heard, right? It
can be that too, and it's manipulative. There's a lot of purposes for it, but I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. I was not really.
Well, and it's become because a lot of these survival things, even how we eat and things we do, we really don't need to do that anymore to survive. But it carries over from
vestigial mechanisms from the past.
It's like, and I think that's why I have trouble even with social media and all of that, because it's like. And politics has become that way. It's just, and like Cece says, news media, all of this, it's
gossip. Yeah, it is.
I am so sick of it.
It's just so
babbling.
ABC should rot in hell. I am so mad. I don't know the guy that they fired, but I know what he said. And he said what any one of us would say, right? Stephen Miller, basically, he said he's a monster. Oh, surprise, surprise. And they fired him for that. And he didn't say it on air. He said it in a conversation online.
I think he actually said it on, his social media.
Yeah. But it's like social media just makes that stuff fester. And there once was a time when I was growing up, you were supposed to address like senators and different people, your honor, the honorable whatever.
Yes,
I can't bring myself to call this because it's devoid of intellect. A lot of this, it's just this performative,
serious, demeaning,
like these gossipy high school whatever.
I agree. I hate that shit.
It's always been that way, and I just don't.
Shame, Marina.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I think I agree with you, and to make it broaden it out even wider. I fucking hate talking about nothing. I fucking hate talking about the weather. Yes. I fucking hate talking about stupid shit. It drives me insane. I cannot, my brain just goes, I don't want to even be here.
And do you notice how few people really want to engage on a more serious level?
I can't, no, very few. And I cannot. So hard. That's why I don't talk to very many people, to be honest with you. I only talk to my clients and my people.
That's why I love this show, because it's like we're talking about, it's not small talk kind of stuff.
Right.
It may go all over the place, but I love that kind of stuff. The
same. I cannot do it any other way. If I go to a party,
I don't want to hear this.
Sinking tapper. I can't even, like, if I go to a party and I can't, I'll hone in on someone and I'll start talking about all kinds of crazy shit with them, and they'll be like, oh my God, yeah. And then we'll get into a really deep conversation. And then if that doesn't happen, I don't talk to anybody. And that's it. Yeah. I just can't engage in that level. I really hate it.
How often do people say to you, I can't handle this, it's too weird, or I can't handle this, it's too depressing, or even
they just walk away usually from you.
I know you're right, but I just can't deal with it anymore.
Well, if you're giving people bad news, I'm sure that happens to you a lot, Helen, because you talk to a lot of people. You're much more extroverted than I am. No, you do. You're an extrovert. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. And I only talk to people who I think can handle what I'm going to say. You know what I'm saying? And if they can't, it's too bad for them. You know what I'm saying?
More diplomatic than I am too. It's got something to do with it.
I think you just talk to more people. I just don't engage with people that I know are going to totally disagree with me or think that I'm a weirdo or something. I'll just be like, okay, and I just kind of walk away. I just sort of put the shield down. That's what I do. I don't engage. So that's the difference, I think, because I used to be like that. I used to, when I was younger, and I was just a weirdo. I would just tell everybody my weirdo things, and people were like, oh, you're crazy. I don't want to deal with that. And I'd just be like, okay, bang,
see, I'm oblivious.
I can talk to this one. I can talk to this one. I can talk to that one, but no, that's it.
Determined. I am determined to make the world pay attention.
To what? To you?
No, not to me. I don't care. No, it's not the messenger. It's the message to make people open their eyes and realize that this little.
You're not going to, Helen. That's never going to happen. I've been at this for a long time. People are not going to listen to you unless they don't want to listen to you.
Now you're
They'll only listen to you when they're ready. When they're ready. Only when they're ready.
One of Helen's greatest gifts, I think, is writing. Seriously, when I have time to read them, I go back into the Substack. The one you wrote about your anniversary, the little plant that became, my God, that was some of the most beautiful writing I think I've ever seen on Substack.
Oh my God, you can mention thank you. I don't even remember what I wrote.
It was wonderful. And I thought, wow, this is a true gift. Everybody has gifts. And this is where I think people listen. It's when you come to them through the heart, through your creative work, whether it's writing, your art. I mean, and Denise has a Substack too. And I asked on there one time because there's like, this art on top of every newsletter you do.
Yeah.
She does her art.
And she does her own art and individual art on every single thing, which is magnificent. It's very interesting. At some point,
I have been doing it. It's just old stuff. I just have.
This is where I truly believe that this is where we will heal or bring people together. It's kind of looping back to what do we do inside? It's going to come not from words. It's going to be from our art.
Yeah, right. And I think you have to
bring this, whether it's visual art, whether it's music. To me, those are the things that bring people together, not words. To be honest with you, that's kind of.
I think the thing is people introvert. Yes, Rudy Brain. I totally agree with that. I think that you can't convince people of anything. You can only tell them your truth, and if they don't want to listen, then you just go, well, that's their problem, really. Eventually, people will. You can try it, but after you get to a point where you tried it enough times, you're just like, and people don't want to listen. You're like, well, I'm only going to talk to people who I know will listen.
Well, what keeps me going is every once in a while, somebody will send me a little message and say, I am so grateful that you're still doing this. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that makes me feel better. It really does. Right. Because otherwise I do feel like shouting into the wind. And
but you do good interviews and with books and all of that.
You do a lot of other things. Yeah.
It's very good. When I had that God discussion show, I mean, Simon & Schuster and some other book companies, they were sending me so many books because I actually would read a book before I interviewed the author. And they could all they were just like,
a lot of people don't.
Just read the blurb and they have whatever, and it's just, and they loved it because it was like, and we'd go on for like 3-4 hours, and then people would call in because it was like, and what you're doing there, you bring these different people on, you're doing a tremendous service because that is how like writing and stuff has become. Whether you're self-published or not, you have to
there's
do your
no outlet. Yeah, you
have
do.
To do your own thing. Even if somebody publishes you, you still have to do that.
That's true.
And so, and I look at social media and all of this stuff, and it's just like, and that's why we have this here. People please, you could call in or hit the video or, join or whatever, because it's just like everybody's shouting out into the wind. There's all these voices, but nobody talks back or talks with. You know what I mean?
It's true. Yeah,
it is. And it's just wonderful to have these dialogues, and people are welcome to come in and do that. And that's what Denise's readings are incredible, because she's really good at communicating. And so are you, Helen. Both of you are very, very
good. Have different styles. Yeah.
But I think with Denise's astrology readings, you need an interpreter. You have to.
I try to interpret it for people. What you're talking about. I know you don't. I try to interpret it, but
you do a good job. I'm kidding you.
Yeah, no, it is a different language. So it is a different language. Yeah.
Although I was able to tell somebody the other day what nodes were, they were very impressed.
Really?
I know.
Because we talked about it so much on
serial killers.
Serial killers, yes, so much.
Gosh, in my early 20s, I had started learning this, and actually, when I started learning it, it was like the people teaching me said, "You must have done this in another lifetime," because I just got it.
Oh, it was like, here we go.
But it just sort of drifted apart, because it's like I've got so many other things going on in my life. I don't have time to go and try to. I'll just leave it to the experts. That's your expertise, I've got other things to learn this lifetime, and
I think you have to start young. There is so much nuance.
Are you talking about
astrology? I think it takes a really long time.
Yeah, it does. It is hard to learn. It's better to learn it younger when. Yeah. And also, you have to have a kind of a specific type of weird brain to be a good astrologer, I think. You have to have a really, really kind of mathematical, kind of sciencey brain and a psychic brain. And that's not a normal combination. That's a really weird combination. It's not like,
When I first saw you on YouTube, what I loved about you was I could tell you had the more sciencey sort of typical knowledge and a very strong intuitive knowledge, which it's very rare to see that, because
usually you'll get one or the other.
And not a judgment. This is not judgment.
No, there are good astrologers who are real just super left-brained, but they're not good predictive astrologers because they don't have any intuition, but they can read things and tell you what they mean, but it's more like a book or something.
Tell you where your strengths are.
Right, exactly. And that's totally useful. But it's not a common thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think there's a place for everybody's ability, and I think everybody has abilities.
Everybody has special talents, I believe. Everybody was given a gift. It's different for everyone. And this is something you see a lot with people, is that they don't acknowledge their gifts. They kind of go, anybody can do that. They think of themselves as being kind of ordinary because it comes so easily to them. You know what I'm saying? Certain things. The thing that comes easily to you is usually your gift and the thing that you really love, and that's the thing you should lean into. But most people kind of go, I don't want to lean into that. That's so boring. I can do that in my sleep. Well,
Deborah, I have to tell you that
interesting.
Thank you for your nice compliments about the writing. And I don't write as much as Denise does. I don't write as often because I have to have a particular kind of inspiration, and it can just be one small thought. But if I get that seed of a thought, I can feel, this is going to be good. And it just flows. But if I have to struggle for it, there's no point.
Right. And it's not worth, but I was so impressed when I read that. It was like, this is like some of the best authors I've ever, just fiction writers. I mean, very, very good. It was really good.
Thank you. That's about the
she can't remember it.
Dead plant genitals.
I understand that.
Dead plant genitals, right? My husband doesn't believe in giving flowers because they're dead plant genitals. He only gives live plants.
That's why I get that. I understand that.
But everybody's got gifts and everyone's got interesting stories. So speaking of stories, what are we tackling next week?
I don't know. What do you want to tackle?
All right. Well, I'll find something weird, unless there's something you guys want to talk about.
Find something weird. Anything.
You know what I find interesting that I think is timely? The contagion of group groupthink.
That's a good one.
Is that a topic?
Mass consciousness.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Well,
that's
and
good.
in a way, it's, because if these plasmas and thoughts and all, I think.
Oh, did we get an orb, Denise? Was it a good idea that I just came out?
I did see something floating about, but it was dark.
That's the topic. That's a good topic.
So it's mass consciousness.
It was a dark orb. That was weird.
Ooh, well, maybe it's because it's a heavy topic.
Maybe it's a dark consciousness. I don't know. That was weird.
Well, and it's one of those areas that I struggle with quite a bit, because it's like, gosh, to try to watch every single thought that you have and not be negative or whatever seems a little bit.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
And, I just lean into it.
But you see these things manifesting around. Well, that's why, the work I do, whatever, it's just, when you concentrate on that, you don't have time to think about negative stuff. You're just kind of, off.
Right. Well,
and whatever. But
your thoughts don't really create things unless you kind of are suppressing them, or you're intentionally doing it. It's like you're really, really repressing something, and it's got an emotional kind of thing to it. It can become, we talked about, like a poltergeist situation. Or if you're intentionally focusing your mind and energy on something, but your regular thoughts, they kind of dissipate. They're kind of like smoke. So don't worry about having bad thoughts.
I don't know. I think you have to put a lot of effort into manifesting your thoughts. Thoughts can create, yes, but that's just the beginning. Because if it was that easy, I'd be 6 feet tall. I'd weigh 115 pounds. I have long flowing blonde hair and a bank account in the millions. And it's just not happening. So,
True. It takes a lot of, it's not that simple.
But the mass consciousness is a good thing, though. I think the mass consciousness is a good topic, because
yes, I think we should, because I'm getting all the orbs coming around here.
I can't help it, Denise. Every time I come up with a good idea, there's a little,
It's in my house, though. What are you doing? What are we here?
It doesn't happen very often, but
why are they happening here?
I don't know.
You're projecting them into my home.
I'm just glad it's not at my house.
Well, you know what? That's kind of like a weird circle back to that weird blue orb coming through the
where we
computer.
started from. That's what we always do.
It's so weird.
You do this.
It's like the orbs are coming in here. You're like projecting your little orbs into my house.
Heavy thoughts. These are tough topics,
No, yeah, they are. Yeah.
Dark energy.
Yeah.
Dark enlightenment. That's what
don't even go there, Helen.
Now that's a nerd joke, if ever there was one.
That is a nerd joke. And on so many levels. Multiple.
Levels. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I just did a thing about Palantir today, so I'm all revved up.
Oh gosh. That, and I think so much data right now is being somebody's got a question.
Oh, hey, 3D Brain. The random number generators that are placed all over the world have become much less random at times than human concentration, almost a bit like 9/11. That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's
what
an
is
interesting subject. So she's proposing that, to look into that. That's an interesting idea.
I'll add that in.
There's actually was some experiments in the 60s and 70s using random generators with individuals trying to influence them. Yeah.
There's something about the topic of hive minds that hits me in the same place that the rise of fascism started hitting me. I mean,
but there are good hive minds too.
Okay, but for me, it's scary. Dean Radin.
Entangled Minds.
Familiar name. Dean Radin.
Why
is that name familiar?
Entangled Minds. I don't know. Minds.
Just I'm gonna give you all a little treat here. I'm gonna tell you what's coming up in the near future, not immediately, but in the near future, just so that you understand that I don't always read heavy duty stuff. I'm reading about old.
I know you showed it to us last week. I know.
It's so good. It's so good.
Is it good?
Yes. It's really interesting. Really interesting. How Rock Hudson got his name. It's just the best.
Oh boy. Okay. I can guess.
Speaking of gossip.
But it's good to get off the serious. You got to read. just got to lighten
Well, I
up from
felt
time
like
to time.
it's summer, summer vacation. People take books to the beach and stuff. Maybe I'll take a little break from the heavy duty stuff and we'll gossip about, Ann Baxter.
No, thank you.
What?
Oh no, I don't want to do that. You do that on your channel. That's what I think you said. No,
people look forward to the books we do on Saturdays, but I always do heavy duty stuff.
Right. No, it's good.
I need a little bit of a break.
You should take a break. You should take a break.
Reading.
Something fun.
Yeah.
Like an ice cream cone for your brain.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, you guys.
All right. Well, this has been fun tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here. Denise, Helen, thank you so much. And for 3D Brady and Cece and whoever else.
Thank you guys for joining us. Awesome talking.
I'm very grateful, Deborah. Thank you for including me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really fun, Deborah.
Oh, I love having you here. This is really fun. I enjoy it.
Oh, good.
So, it is. It's kind of like my ice cream cone for the brain. Just sort of like,
Same
get
here.
together. Yes.
You poor thing.
Yeah. It's fun. It is fun. And Helen, you have such a good sense of humor. You're really funny and kooky.
Thanks.
Smart and
well,
funny.
you should continue that compliment as one of my 6 delinquent brothers would have when they were little. You're really funny looking.
No. You're very pretty. You're beautiful.
I tell you, Denise, brothers. That's all I can say.
I know. I have one. He's insane.
Multiply that by 6.
Yeah. I would not like that at all.
Scary.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, be safe this weekend, whatever you're doing.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm.
And we appreciate you all. And we'll be back on Wednesday night. How's that?
Perfect.
All right. Love you all.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right.
Okay.
Good night.
Have a good night. All right, you guys.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.